you have to ask the hard questions. Do you have NDIS clients? It's not a transaction, it's a relationship you're building.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the NDIS Untold podcast. And today we have a very special guest, Amanda from New Wave Insurance. This is John from Aspire Hub. My name is Chris from MySolas. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Amanda, let's begin with sharing a little bit about who you are and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm an insurance broker here on the Gold Coast, actually. I've been in the insurance industry coming on 24 years now, and I've worked in all facets of insurance from underwriting to claims, investigation, and broking. Went out on my own a few years ago in insurance because I felt that it needed to be modernised and more personalised. So we're really big advocates of certain industries in our brokerage. There's general insurance brokers, but we really like to niche and harness in on certain occupations to make sure that we get it right for the client. And one of these is in the NDIS space because it has grown considerably and really broadened in the last 5 years in particular.
Perfect.
Cool.
Just for everyone out there, so Amanda is Amanda is our broker for all of our insurance. So we made that switch
Just recently.
just a few months ago.
Yeah.
And obviously we can't be happier,
Thank you.
having you on board. Our previous experience has been quite less than ideal. So in the insurance space, it gets very complex, particularly when you combine it with an industry like ours.
Yes.
Where there's a lot of different, complexities, and a lot of underwriters are not prepared or they do not have the understanding to sort of be able to offer the appropriate amount of coverage, and even brokers as well, right? Like for me, a lot of brokers out there, especially from the larger brokers, what I find in my experience, they do not provide the sort of sound advice in terms of what you should actually be covering, right, in the business. So I think for us, at Aspire Hub, previously, when we had the broker, a lot of promises were made, right? And things like, we're going to catch up with you, every few months, or just to have a chat about, your business, where you're growing, to see if, the insurance is more than enough to cover your needs, whether it's, whether your business have changed and whether anything has to be, the terms have to change. I think it was really disappointing at the point of time because not only did he not catch up, and my insurance was pretty much due to sort of lapse. So, I hit him up and say, hey, what's going on? Like, when is the insurance renewing and things like that? And it was disheartening because, then he came back to me and said, oh, I just came back from a holiday. I'll get onto it right now. And this was 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
Right? From the insurance pretty much expiring. For me, it's like, well, again, where is the due diligence here from a broker's perspective?
Correct.
You know what I mean? And, from there, obviously, I found you and, everything just went so quickly and so smoothly. And you're right, in terms of I looked at the PDS and everything like that, the amount of coverage that we got was just way better.
Yeah.
And it just leads me to think, if we don't actually have a good broker, what could really happen, right? When there is an incident. So, we're definitely thankful to have you on board.
Oh, thank you. And you're exactly right. So traditionally in brokerages, it's transactional and it's financial for the brokerage.
Yeah.
So that's why I've done things a little bit differently. So at the end of the day, we're all running a business and we all want to be profitable, but it's about the service delivery, and our tag is insurance with purpose. We want you to have a product that is appropriate for you, not just something that is a transactional experience.
Yeah.
So anyone can fill in a form, any broker can get someone to fill in a form and they send it off to underwriters, and and then we can put, as brokers, we can put the duty of disclosure back on you, John, and say, well, you need to let us know. But you don't know what you don't know or need to tell us. So what we do at New Wave is we make smaller teams. Our account execs have smaller, half the amount of clients that a normal brokerage would have traditionally, and we really focus on the service delivery, and we actually reverse engineer it. So that's why I will ask for information you would have never provided before, like profit and loss statements. We stalk Instagram pages, website pages. We literally do of our clients. I can't tell you how many of my construction clients I've rung and said, you did not tell me about that on your Instagram story. So it's about me protecting myself and learning so much about you. And as you would remember from the experience, I had question after question, and then I would put them into scenarios and what that could actually look like.
Yes.
It's not putting the fear factor, but it's being about realistic and what claims have I seen in the past that I want to prevent you from having in the future. And if it does occur, how can we defend that at point of claim for you?
Yeah. And I think it's important to note as well that, at the end of the day, obviously insurance is there to cover a risk that obviously you could foresee or you might not even foresee. And it's important to state that, it's not just the financial damage, right, at the end of the day, because it's also the sustainability of the business.
Absolutely.
Having a claim against you could literally cripple your business, could put you down under. And I think that's what, I feel like a lot of people out there sort of think of insurance as, oh, it's a necessary expense, but I don't want to spend too much on it, but I know it's a necessary expense.
Yes.
And they do not understand that if anything were to happen, right, if you look at a statutory claim, the maximum penalty units, it's insane.
Incredible.
And,
Yeah.
Imagine getting the maximum penalty units. I think it was about 20 mil. I can't recall.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
And in your industry, it's real.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a statutory fine or penalty made against you, it's going to be significant. And now you've got that peace of mind. And that's what I mean, like filling in a form, do you want that cover? Previously, you would have gone, I don't even know what that cover is.
Yep.
So this time, that's why I would say, let's tick all the boxes: management liability, stat liability, excuse me, occupational health and safety.
Yep.
And then I will offer you the full suite, explain what each section means, and then you can make that informed decision and go, well, we don't need that. Or yes, we would like that extension of cover. Like the abuse liability that you've never previously had.
Yep.
It's a real concern in the NDIS space when you're caring for vulnerable people in their home, whether it's a SIL home or in their own home environment. Like abuse liability and molestation claims are starting to rear their head, and you need to know that you've got the comfort to be able to not just pay them out, but defend. You will have a panel of legal people defending that for you. And
it's interesting you say that, because my last broker, one of the exception to the policy was molestation and abuse, and I actually did not have cover for that. So that's interesting to know. And I guess, the other thing here is that for providers, we try to have everything as perfect as possible, right? In terms of our processes, we try to keep things tight. But, there's a lot of, movements, right? In terms of when you're supporting a person, from management down to your support workers, down to your policies, down to your governance. And it takes one of it to sort of, just turn an extra cog or, something along those lines. And pretty much, you have an incident. And it's correct. It's just like that.
That's right.
So, I can't stress how important it is. And it just gives me a peace of mind. Right? I'm pretty sure it gives Chris a peace of mind as well. Being able to sleep at night sometimes.
The interesting thing, Amanda, is I do meet a lot of new NDIS business owners.
Yes.
And every now and then the insurance topic comes up.
Yes.
And their first, like when we get into the details, they're like, oh, yeah, I just got insurance online, through a specific online provider. And, it took me 10 minutes. It's very easy. So, but, they're not looking into the fine print and looking into the type of services that they're offering, whether or not that insurance backs them up or covers them.
That's right.
So, which is one of the reasons why John and I, we debated over this, and we thought, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of providers, even I would say medium-sized providers, where they're still running standard basic insurance.
Absolutely. And it's of no fault of their own, because they're ticking paperwork, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do I get to the next step, whether they're a sole trader or a PTYLD or a non-registered service provider or a service provider? They're ticking boxes. Do we want this tender? Do we want this contract? Or do I want this employment? Okay, I need 20 mil liability. Jump online, $400 beauty.
Yeah.
So it's of no fault of their own. And I just try to educate people and say that's absolutely fine. But I always encourage them to ring that online provider and say, well, it looks like I've got my first job coming up. It's a lovely 11-year-old young girl and we're going to go out on social support visits. She wants to go to Dreamworld. So I often say, ring them up and say, well, will you cover me for under 18s, or whether they have certain medical prompt assistance required? Just give them a bit more information. They always ring me back and say, oh, they said they wouldn't cover me. So that's a really easy example when people are entering the NDIS space. They've gone and done their certificates and all the right things, and they feel as though they've done the right thing, but not many people read that fine print on that email of assurance to say duty of disclosure is on them.
Yes.
So by them calling the insurer saying, oh, I'm disclosing to you, I'm going to be working with a young person, then we want to do that beforehand, not when we're trying to lodge a claim when that young person has become injured for some reason.
And I think this is really true, because in the NDIS practice standards, right, you are required to actually have to hold business insurance. That's actually a requirement under the NDIS practice standards. And a lot of providers, what they do is obviously they look at what sort of insurance are out there. So from an auditing perspective, you're required to have your management liability, your professional indemnity, your public liability. It's really pretty much it. That's pretty much what they ask for. So during an audit, when an auditor goes through, they'll ask you for your certificate of currency. They have a look at it and they go, okay, well, you've got it. That's a tick, right? An auditor does not read through your PDS.
The quality of that product they purchased, that's
and
right.
They do not read through what exactly you've been covered for. It's not their forte, right?
No.
People think of auditors as the be or end all.
No.
It's not. It's very far from that, right? They can only go off what they see. And obviously based on their knowledge and their experience. So if their experience only extends so much, you're being audited based on, that level, right?
That's right.
And, and that's where providers fall into that trap because, well, I passed my audits, auditor checked my insurance, everything is good.
Yeah.
Right. And then something happens and then you find out that you're not being covered, like, the instance that you're talking about. And it's so important to know. And I think that's one of the misconceptions that I had early on as well. Because I was sort of around that same mentality as well. It's like, well, I told them I'm running an NDIS business. I want to get insurance. That's it.
Absolutely.
Right? After speaking to yourself and obviously the brokers before, I found out, hey, wait a minute, I need to be saying this, I need to be saying that, because if I don't and something happens, that's pretty much me done.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many funny stories out there where people are like, oh, yeah, I'm just running NDIS and then we're doing a day program. Sounds beautiful. What are you doing? We're going to do horse riding one day, archery the next day. And you're like, okay, here we go. These are these really great discussions that we need to have.
Yeah. And I think from a provider perspective, from my own knowledge anyway, because I'm actually in the day programs. I'm doing day programs as well. And obviously we take participants out. So where does this coverage sort of extend to the venue and us? How does that work?
Yeah, that's right. That's a really good question. So you are providing the care for them, whether you take them to any venue.
Yep.
But the venue, of course, will have to have their own liability, but that's as a property owner. So where the potential for claim at a venue, for example, if you're at a community hall or whatever hall, whatnot, carrying out these activities, say they were negligent in upkeeping the property. So they had a bit of guttering that's continuously falling down and whatnot. And then a participant or one of your employees were there, went past, scratched their arm and it got infected.
Yeah.
Well, that's when we would take that recourse back to the property owner and the venue and say, hey, you're doing the wrong thing, you're negligent here. And as a result, someone has been injured from that. Whereas your duty of care and attention is with the participants and keeping your staff safe and carrying out the activities as per your policies and procedures and guidelines, which is spot on.
Yeah, awesome. Talking about funny stories and horror stories, so I'm always one for that. So do you want to share anything?
Oh, funny stories. Oh, look, it's
pretty sure you
endless.
got plenty.
It's endless. Oh, look, when you're a broker, you get all sorts of things, not even just in the NDIS space and people saying, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that. We have insured everything from freeze-dried breast milk to that gets distributed out to people who can't breastfeed their own babies. We get all sorts. like tour operators that do the most insane tours that you're like, how are we going to get this one across the line?
Yeah.
But yeah, we just take all the time. There's lots of horror stories as well. So many horror stories out there that have occurred for businesses. Probably one of the biggest ones, without boring you, that I see these days. The last time I saw a bit of a personal injury claim, it was a very long time ago. They don't raise their head as frequent. Management liability is huge. So whenever you're dealing with employees and staff, there are always going to be complicated layers with that.
Yep.
And one of the best asset protection that I offer our clients is management liability.
Yep.
And everyone's going to self-insure to an extent. I would rather say to you, self-insure for your glass cover. I know your landlord wants you to insure your glass, but you know what? It's going to cost you $1,000 to replace that panel if something happens. I'd rather you spend $1,000 towards management liability, which will cover you for like company liabilities, directors and office bearers' decisions that may cause fines and penalties. Employment practice liability is within that policy as well. So we all hear the horror stories of unfair dismissal, sexual harassment in the workplace, aggressive behaviour from even clients, NDIS clients who have attacked some of your staff.
Yep.
We all have this philosophy that, oh, they've got work cover. We've got work cover. That's what that's for, workers' compensation.
Yes.
That will only take you so far.
Yep.
If you're hit, if they've gone to work cover or whatnot, or you're hit with a really big legal claim, and we all know that there's all these solicitors out there that give advice, and you've got an unfair dismissal claim, where do you want to spend your energy? Operating your business to the best standard you can, or day and night writing up affidavits to defend this unfair dismissal claim where you've followed all the right steps. My bet is let the management liability take care of it. You'll send us the paperwork. Well, we've just been hit with this. Fantastic. We'll appoint a panel of lawyers and they will do all the mediation and hard work for you. So that policy is something that if you've got 2 or more staff these days, I would be saying let's have a discussion around that. Yeah.
And it's interesting in terms of management liability, right? Obviously, we deal with Fair Work, we deal with Work Cover Queensland.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times you go to them with a question and you ask them, a genuine question is just to say, hey, look, I find myself in this situation. What is the solution around this? And often you'll find that they will not be able to give you a straight answer.
Correct.
So it's always going to be, it depends on your own policies and your own procedures. Well, I know that I've got my policies and procedures. I'm trying to find out if it's actually, relevant or if it's falling in line with legislation. And if it's really such a headache dealing with that, can you imagine trying to defend yourself in court or, trying to explain to, yourself, explain to the lawyers that you have to now manage and things like that. It's just going to be such a headache, right?
It's horrible. It's so stressful.
Yeah. And having, a sort of a lawyer sort of, appointed by the insurance just to be able to help out, right? And obviously insurance being insurance, they will get the right lawyers for you. They don't get any, I wouldn't say Tom, Dick or Harry, but, lawyers that specializes in a different area to come and defend you.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that's also very important to note is because, insurance also, we are in the sort of financial industry, I guess, insurance is.
Absolutely.
And naturally with insurance as well, if they will do whatever they can to sort of protect their client. Right, and obviously their financial
That's
interests
exactly
as well.
right,
So
to mitigate that loss.
if you connect, if you have the appropriate insurance and you have a good underwriter as well, I think it's where it needs to be.
That is exactly right, and they're not just going to hand out insurance. So taking it back a step, insurance is about asking for permission rather than forgiveness at point of claim. So I touched on the abuse liability extension that we got for your business earlier. They would not have given you that if you didn't have the right policies and procedures in place. So we requested that from you. We submitted that to the underwriter. They reviewed them and said, hey, no, these guys are doing a really good job. So if something happens, it's not going to be through intentional negligence. It's going to be through human error.
Exactly.
And that's what insurance is there for, human error.
Exactly.
None of us are perfect.
So, Amanda, there's obviously, hundreds of different insurance products out there.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to the NDIS space,
Yes.
would one particular product cover providers, support workers, therapists? Is it
No.
flexible that way, or is there specialized products for individuals.
Yeah, they really are. They're what we call binders and agreements with different underwriters. So a few underwriters and insurers out there have gone out to specifically write actual products for this industry. So we have like one called a care liability which is a particular insurer. And the reason why they've done that is because they've got extensions of cover in there that are really relevant to your industry, like the abuse liability and other medical malpractice, errors and omissions, which is professional indemnity. There's this perception out there if you're a support worker that you just need liability. You might only just cause property damage or personal injury. But it's not. You're providing treatment, whether you're providing personal care in the home and providing a shower, you're doing a med prompt for the day, you are giving advice that can come into play in the event of a lawsuit. So medical malpractice is so important. We always, by doing the due diligence process with the client, we know where to direct the client and find the appropriate product for them. And that's really, really important. Everything has a place. But sometimes we will negotiate the certain terms with the underwriter to say, look, we really need this for the client. We see that this is a potential risk, and they will do extra endorsements for us. Similarly, there might be some really inappropriate exclusions there that we feel are relevant for the client, and we'll go back and request that that exclusion is removed from their policy so that they have peace of mind that they're covered.
It's good you're doing that, you know. Sorry, I just want to touch on that because the previous policies that we've got, I had to look through the exclusions and the statements to actually be, wait a minute, that that's not right. I do need that. So if I didn't look at it, again, you would have gone through, we would have paid for insurance but not get covered.
And then if something happened, I could have said, well, you need to read your documentation job. But it's not about that. It's my job to tell you what you need. I literally went out to a huge machinery distributor 2 months ago now. They had been paying for 12 years for a policy that their broker just rolled over every year. $7 million turnover of machinery and consumables. They import 90% of their products. They only had one exclusion on there, that it excluded any imported products. And I just opened it up and went, can I just bring your attention to this? And they were devastated. They were like, I don't know what we've been paying then. I'm like, well, this is why I'm here. This is what we need to do.
I wonder what the cost was.
Huge.
what they were paying.
Huge. Yeah. Well, I know what it was, and it was not comfortable.
So, Amanda, just going back to, the different covers that are available.
Yes.
Now, in this space, there's also families who have children under the NDIS.
Yes.
Now, in your opinion, do they need insurance to support their loved ones?
What I would be, so if they're supporting their loved ones and they're managing their plans and so forth, they can have all their usual insurances that we would have in a domestic sense. So they would have their home insured, because I'm not sure if everyone's aware, when you have your dwelling insured, whether it's your building or your contents, there is also legal liability automatically written within that wording. So then you could have that extra peace of mind that if something happens because of my home and my upkeep of the home, and I've got people coming into my home, that's an absolute necessity. Then you can have all your personal effects specifically insured. Then there's also, if you're in Queensland and you've got volunteers or independent subcontractors coming into your home, so that's not just care.
So that's basically the independent support workers, right?
Yep. Generally, it used to traditionally be the nanny, the cleaner, and the greens person, right? Now we've got people coming in. So WorkCover Queensland, which I am not an advocate for in terms of I don't sell their product, but I'm aware of their product because it's very ideal for the families out there. I would encourage people to contact WorkCover Queensland because they have what's called a work compensation home domestic product, very affordable for the families to have that peace of mind that people are coming in. Now, a quick example of what this would cover, because I had actually just a friend who went through this experience. It was horrendous. She had an independent worker coming in with her child. They were jumping on the trampoline. The caregiver double jumped the child, and the child double jumped the caregiver, and her knee went into her mouth. Smashed all her teeth, $14,000 worth. Now, short story, the client, my friend, tried to claim under their liability of their home insurance. And they said, well, actually, you weren't abiding by the recommendation of the trampoline, which is one person at a time. So we can't follow that through. Thankfully, she had this work cover product she initially did it because she had nannies coming into the home for her other younger children. And they were able to pick up that personal injury claim because the care worker said, no, you're actually you're liable for this. I've got $14,000 worth of dental care I now need.
Yeah.
And then my friend was able to fall upon that policy for that. So that's always a good service. And then on the flip side for the families, it is imperative that they ask any care worker who is an independent support worker under ABN that they provide certificate of currencies annually for that professional indemnity liability piece, or we call it a healthcare policy, but also income protection. And that's something a lot of people don't have. So it would be a bit of it's not essential to have income protection for that independent worker, but it's a recommendation. So if something was to happen, it kind of...
And look, it does happen a lot in our space, right? As a provider, our clients, they change their supports quite often.
Yes.
And a lot of times, their plans are due for reviews every year. Granted that the NDIS is trying to sort of lengthen that review period. But every year, the supports can change.
Yes.
And when that change, it means that from our end, we have to scramble then to sort of make it work, financially and obviously for the participant as well in terms of their supports.
That's right.
Imagine if you're an independent support worker, when a plan changes for your participant, you're only supporting one participant, your life can change overnight.
Absolutely.
Pretty much. And I think that's where the income protection actually does come in. And I never actually thought about it that way with regards to income protection, but it is so relevant for our industry, especially for independent support workers, just for that fact.
Yeah. You can be an independent support worker and you're simply going out on the weekend and you might be doing anything, hiking, and slip down a little ravine, twist your ankle or both ankles, you're not able to work.
Yeah.
So you need that right income protection, not just one that whilst you're carrying out your duties as an independent support worker, you want a nice little policy that covers you 7 days a week, 365 days a year, so that if you do, I've broken my arm, things happen. But you could have a car accident any day of the week.
Yeah.
And if that's your livelihood, then you're not able to work and you don't have that income.
Yeah. And for families, right? So if at the moment, there's a bit of a debate, and I'm not too 100% sure on this. So families who bring in support workers as contractors. So there's been a lot of talk, or I've seen a lot of talk anyway, a lot of discussions about independent support workers having to become an employee once they work some certain number of hours, right? Because it's like the contractor thing. So when a contractor gets regular work hours for a period of, I think, 12 months, 6 months?
Correct. And regular days, regular work. This is where there's that blurred line with HR law. That's right. Yeah.
So if they then become an employee, so the family pretty much will have to purchase the same level of insurance as a provider. Is that correct?
They would need to provide workers' compensation and have the superannuation component for the employee.
Wow. Then what about management liability? Would they need that even? And how would that work, considering that I guess their experience or their background might not even be in that space?
That's right. And to get that, they would still have to be a registered business to employ the person.
Yeah.
And then to take out that management liability, and also then they're employing staff, so they need their own liability and indemnity policy.
Wow.
Yeah. It adds a whole nother element. And I know there are a lot of discussions around this and what people's entitlements are, being that ABN, having those regular hours. How is that seen in the eyes of the HR?
Yeah, especially for families, right? Because technically they're not an employee.
That's right. And the interesting thing is there's nothing out there to educate families that this is what they need to do.
Yeah.
We know of families that's got their own support workers for the last 4 or 5 years, and they're carrying on. It's like, business as usual. They don't think that they need to get work cover or anything else. So
That's right. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, I think we just need some more education around that and ways like this, honestly, that people can.
Yes, and considering the NDIS is all about families and all that
Mm.
sort of stuff, I haven't seen anything from the NDIS with regards to insurance specifically for families.
Yeah.
They're very light on the subject. There is
Well,
nothing. Do you remember seeing anything on the website regarding what kind of insurance a provider needs? And
well, like I said, what the practice standard states is that you just need to have appropriate insurances.
Yeah. So
Appropriate
as a
can mean many
anything.
things. But like I said, as long as you have your management liability and your public liability as a provider, an auditor sees that, pretty much
yeah,
it will
and-
cover
but
obviously.
you're right. There's nothing for the families
There's
when they're
nothing.
managing their plans and so forth. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a interesting one. I think we need to do a bit more research on that. And
I think so too. And there's only going to need to be a really significant event to occur,
Yeah.
and then that will shake up.
well, it's just like your friend, right? Like
Yeah.
the trampoline.
Yeah.
The very fact it's lucky that she had work cover, right?
Yeah.
For the nanny, not even for the support worker.
Yeah.
Imagine if she didn't have that.
Yeah, we were just racking our brains going, okay, how are we going to do this? And she's like, well, I got this policy here from when we had the nanny here.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's give that a go. Yeah.
And yeah, luckily they have it. So for families, right, obviously outside of the management liability, what sort of insurance can they get to cover themselves?
Yeah, with the families, it's having their home and contents, and then the work cover one with the domestic purpose. Yeah.
Fair enough.
They don't have a lot of avenues unless they are a registered business themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we be lobbying towards the underwriters to say, hey, you might need to create something for the families?
You know what? We do. We need to look at that. We need to go back to there's about 6 key underwriters that really are in this care space.
Yep.
With the NDIS, and that's not such a silly thought for us to be able to go, okay, what product could we be offering out there? Because there is a gap. There's that gap in cover there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So, the other thing here is for families, right? Choosing a trusted broker
Yes.
is everything.
Oh, or
Right.
service providers, anyone. Yeah.
Luckily, your friend had you. I'm lucky to have you.
Yeah.
All right. I think I did my due diligence
Yes.
when I went ahead with Amanda.
Yes.
I like to say that, and I
Yeah.
had a really good experience. But in your view, Amanda,
Yes.
what are some of the tips or things to look up for, right?
Yes.
When actually finding a broker.
I think you really need to talk to them. You put all your trust and faith in your broker. It sounds so silly, but I go to the dentist to get my dental work done. I go to the accountant to get we all have our own trades.
Yep.
You need to find one that you talk to, and you have to ask the hard questions. Do you have NDIS clients? We obviously can't say, yes, we look after so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so by name, but we can say, yes, we have extensive experience, and these are some of the claims. It's almost like you should be interviewing the broker, not the other way around.
Yeah.
It's not a transaction. It's a relationship you're building.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm ticking the box. It's, we need these discussions, these conversations, a cup of coffee, a phone call, a Zoom, and it's really getting to know each other and having those discussions. You need someone who is available because things do happen, and it's usually on the holidays and the weekend. So we have like 24-hour support. We've got different platforms that you can contact us on. Generally, it's me on the holidays because I like my staff to be able to relax. I'm like, I just need you to relax and be fresh, and because I love it. And we have a lot of response teams that are available.
Yeah, and obviously, striking a good relationship is important.
Yes.
But I've had my fair share of brokers as well in the past where I think that I had a really good relationship, but it did not substantiate to anything that is of I guess in the end, right? That's not much. How do I put it
Like
here?
value.
Yeah, value. You know what I mean? So it's like we have that relationship, but the sort of insurance covers, the sort of products that was being offered or were being offered were not, the best.
Yeah,
So, I think relationship is definitely important. But
absolutely.
what can someone ask the broker in order to sort of test or determine
Yeah.
if they're going to be the right fit?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would really be asking them, like, what is your experience specifically with NDIS? Have you worked with clients that operate in the SIL space? Because a lot of people don't ask that question and just say, oh, yep, you're an NDIS service provider. So if I just took that information, I could insure you with probably 16 different underwriters. If I said, do you work in the SIL space? And you said yes, it narrows it down to 4, just like that. So people have to have experience in this industry. People need to be asking, what type of companies, what size NDIS providers are you working with? Tell me, what are some of the policies you offer your NDIS clients and why do you offer them? What benefit are they? So if someone knows what they're talking about, whether it be with medical malpractice, errors and omission, management liability, cyber protections like cyber and privacy liability, one of the biggest things I see at the moment is cyber, for obvious reasons. Companies get hacked or ransomware and so forth, but it's around the privacy leakage and privacy liability. So we can have lots of lovely support workers in the home, and they're out in the community with their little ones that they're caring for in a little water park, and they're taking photos on their own personal phone. And they might just be sending them back to mum, and that's lovely, but there's a really big exposure to privacy there. Care workers, support workers are saving, mum and dad's personal phone number in their device. Again, we're looking at a privacy breach. So it goes back to the business best practice of the NDIS provider. But yeah, I just went off on a tangent there, but the importance of knowing the exact product for that provider and why would you offer me that? So what it's not what could you sell me, it's like what do you think is the most appropriate product for my business now that you know how we operate? Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any areas that the NDIS will not the NDIS, in the insurance will not cover in the NDIS space? Like for example, we have clients who want to go skydiving.
Yeah.
And
so
we've always said no.
Yeah. Yeah. So high risk is
it
really is one of the ones that anything motorized, we're seeing a lot of underwriters pull out of the space now. It's evolving like month to month. It's evolving. Like I mentioned with the SIL scenario, so supported independent living scenarios with providers, whether it be you own the dwelling and you also operate an occupancy agreement in there. A year ago, you could write it every day of the week at a certain premium. We've seen a huge influx of claims around property damage of some of the participants, causing significant property damage and significant personal injury to the workers. So I've seen a lot of the market pull back. So it used to just be skydiving and horse riding. That was a no way. And then now it's even more realistic things. We've had clients take their clients to Bali on holidays, and we're like, yeah, we really needed to know about that one. That wouldn't have been so good. The underwriters are really now the NDIS has been operating a few years, and as people in your industry would have seen the people who are being weaned out very quickly due to their business practices, the underwriters are doing the same thing, and the insurers they're really safeguarding the products they've got and how they write it. Sometimes they'll charge the premium accordingly to the risk and the experience in the industry. We're seeing that a lot.
It's quite interesting that the community, they use the word choice and control when a provider actually have to say, sorry, we can't engage in that sort of activity.
Yeah.
The community says, well, you're taking away the client's choice and control.
Yeah.
Not knowing the reasons behind it.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, there's client-centered care, which is beautiful that they have that now. But like anything, we all need boundaries and parameters.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because this sort of boils down to our next question from a viewer, right? It was, if I decide to offer new services, change or cancel services, do I need to inform the insurance, and how quickly should I do it?
Straight away.
Yeah.
So that's going back to, have you got a good broker? Yep. If you've got my phone number, if you send me, I can't tell you how many texts we get. So you can WhatsApp us, you can Zoom us, you can call us. If today you're going to be doing something you haven't told us about before that is of higher risk, send us a quick text. Beauty. We'll ask for permission rather than forgiveness. So a lot of people have this perception. They're like, oh, I've got an ABN and I have liability for that ABN for NDIS. I'm also going to start cooking classes and I might do some hairdressing. No, like the policy is appropriate to the occupation and like the risk associated with that. So we highly encourage all our clients, whether they're NDIS or not, if they've started doing some domestic services for their client as a support worker, I'm also going to start doing the external window cleaning. Might seem little because they're just doing cleaning,
Yeah.
but I'm going to prune the gardening and that. Just shoot us a text and we'll add it on.
Yeah.
Because obviously cleaning external windows is a lot higher risk than vacuuming. It's just about having those conversations and keeping it in the back of our mind.
Yeah.
We say, and we just make it easy. Shoot a quick email, text, whatever is the easiest way for you to communicate with us, then that's on us to action. We've got to action it and say, yep, all good, you're good to go.
And how quick is the turnaround for that?
Oh, very good. We've got great relationships with our underwriters.
Okay.
If it's a significant risk and a significant change, like if you're taking on a new tender, John, and you say, look, we've got this new tender, we're now going to be supporting whatever that may be. It's going to be worth a 2-year project worth $2 million. Then we're going to ask lots of questions. And generally speaking, a lot of these underwriters are based in London. So it could be a 2 to 3 day turnaround. However, if it's just a small change that you're going to do some casual bike riding and, introduce bike riding and tennis lessons to your participants, that would be within a few hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now, Amanda, again, this is for all the providers out there who would like to review their insurance.
Yeah.
Are you okay for us to share your contact details?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be happy to help. We like to evolve with our clients because we understand that 1 minute they're a sole trader and then they're a P2Y Ltd and they've got 2 staff, and then all of a sudden they're going to be registered service providers. We evolve with them, and that's why it's so important to have those points of contact and share that with them and tweak and adapt their insurance how they need, because they don't need management liability when they start. But when we start having those conversations and we go, okay, hang on, look, everything's going beautifully, let's have a look at another layer that we can offer you in protection.
We had a last minute viewer question that came through as well. And it was around in terms of claiming for insurance.
Okay, yeah.
What's the best thing that a provider can do to improve the chances of a claim going through successfully and quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is tell us everything. As brokers, tell us everything you're doing, duty of disclosure, because we'll tell you if there's a big red flag there. So let's start with the end in mind. Let's start the process. So when you take out insurance, disclose everything. Let's get it all set in place. Have business best practice. So have the right policies and procedures. Have, all the different sensational employee checks. Do the police check. Do the this. Do the that. Manage you're mitigating your loss. You're mitigating any risk that you're going to have to yourself as a person or a company. So it's disclose everything to your broker and get the right policies in place. Because if the underwriter has insured you and they know you're doing that activity, and something happens as a result of that activity, you got a pretty good chance that they're going to be fine. They'll be like, yeah, we knew about that. It's unfortunate that this incident occurred. It's human error. Accidents happen. It wasn't not an intentional act or a deliberate act. So we're going to be picking this up for you. Yeah. 99.9% of the time, as long as you've told us all the information and they've said, yeah, that's fine. If something happens, generally that is how it goes.
And that's the communication bit, right?
It's all about communication.
It's so important to have the catch-ups with the brokers on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, look, thank you so much, Amanda. Oh, sorry. Have you, Amanda, for all of our listeners,
yes,
if they would like to sort of ask any further questions about insurance,
absolutely.
How should they reach you?
They can reach us at our office. They can come down to Mermaid Beach at our office, or they can contact us on our phone number 5504 1999. We've also got newwaveinsurance.com.au and Amanda at newwaveinsurance.com.au.
All these details will be in the description of the video.
We're always happy to help, and we don't have to sell you a policy to be able to give you advice. If you just want to ring up and have a call and put a scenario across or say, this is what I want to do, what could that look like? That's a really good step to start with, because we might say, hey, that's really great. These 6 things you want to do is fantastic. Maybe lean away from those 2 things, because that's not going to be an insurable event.
Just make sure they buy you wine if they just up the red button. But look, thank you so much, Amanda, for coming today.
It's my
such
pleasure.
A valuable session. Hopefully, our listeners listening today will be able to get some useful advice from it.
Yeah.
Chris, Is there anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Who would have thought insurance was interesting?
Yes.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
All
It's a
right, thank you.
pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you.